So in season 5, Philip takes on the research that's been given to him on season 4, which is really the data for the anomalies, how they change, where they appear and what they do. And he's going to use that to try and devise a machine that will create free energy, or very cheap energy, to try and help save the world's energy problems.
New Dawn is it's about energy. It's about Philip wants to harness the energy of the anomalies to stop the energy crisis.
The anomalies are a resource. We've been so distracted by the creatures that we haven't seen it until now. I'm talking about free energy, Connor. Energy that's safe, that's clean and limitless. Energy for the whole world.
And he's told Connor that if we design this thing, if we can harness the power of the anomalies and exploit it as well, then this, you know, would be the end to war, famine, or diseases, or everything, you know, economies crashing, everything that is associated with, you know, shortages of energy. So it's quite major stuff, and that's why I really like this. It's really been thought about.
The opening of season 5 has an emergence of a huge, great burrowing creature, and the very opening sequence we find a traffic jam outside a sort of shopping precinct. And all the drivers are getting very irate because the traffic lights are holding them up and the workmen are going very slowly. And we find out that the chief agitator of this is Lester, who's sitting in his car. Creature of the week, this great, huge, sort of crustaceous burrowing monster, if you like, emerges and sinks and, you know, takes a hole out of the road. So that sequence I've just started to be seeing being edited together, and that's dramatically exciting and a great way to open season 5.
Well, this is useless.
Oh, no! In a later episode, which is season 5, episode 11, there is another creature incursion where a pack of beetles, if you like, crawl through the infrastructure behind me, through the walls, through the ceiling, under the grill, and try and break through and kill our team, effectively. So again, the system is in full lockdown, and we have a whole episode set in the Ark.
I've built many caves over the years, and a cave that you can touch is one thing, a cave that is out of touch is another. And I know that caves can be very cheap, but no one here has built a cave like this before, which is interesting, because to me it's an old theatrical way of building caves, but it's literally paper, and it's an insulation paper stapled to a frame. But it can't be designed, it has to be seen before you start building it. The difficult part is I need two carpenters, a whole lot of timber and a lot of screws, and 2 days. And they need to put the frame up for what every extension is, every rock is. They need to start putting frames up by me telling them where the bit of wood goes, because only I have seen the finished object in my eyes. So it again is a sculpture, a working sculpture, but you have to walk backwards through it. You have to see where the camera would move through it as solid objects, even though you're putting up a framework.
Originally built as a cave, it extends way beyond the average cave, excusing the lights and the bits and pieces. Follow me through. It has nooks and crannies and areas that you would expect creatures to pop out of. It has the real scary factor, and lit in the right way and with the right storylines which we have, it'll throw a few surprises.
Primeval needs to be in the dark sometimes. Primeval needs to be subdued lighting, or an affected stylization, not a reality of light or being out in daylight. So we've got to create a way of getting you underground or into somewhere that it doesn't look as contrived because that's where the creature might be. It's because you fell into it, or it gives you a darker space to work.
The caves are brilliant. I mean, smelly and dirty and tight and claustrophobic. And it looked great, and it was really easy for them to light it. And in fact, it's the same feeling you get for the submarine set. They really wanted to get that kind of claustrophobic Das Boot kind of feeling. So the submarine's pretty cool, and you get that real sense of people in a confined space. And then when you introduce creatures and drama, it's going to look really good. But it was a really enclosed space to work in, and I think that'll come across on the camera.
The submarine was something that it's very, very difficult to do because you're asking the camera to sit in there and look at that for maybe 2 weeks of the continuous daily. It's close quarters. So you're revealing technology. So you have to develop a lot about how you're going to produce it very early. But one of the things I talked to the producers about was that very early in the piece, before we started the shows, I would do and develop a submarine as long as I had the whole show to do it in. So what was possibly a first or second episode becomes the 9th or 10th.
Behind this door, this very heavy door, is what is going to be one of the most amazing sets during the whole run of all of the series of Primeval. This corridor is going to be a submarine. It's the inspirational design of the production designer. He's going to create the claustrophobia of a submarine fighting a creature underneath the waters.
I had a corridor here, an old corridor that had an infrastructure, I think, structural support structure for a submarine. But how that's going to work, that relies upon really years of experience. But I always see things finished. So I could walk into the corridor and see a completely finished submarine before I started. So it was all there. I just had to, it was all, in the ethers. I just had to assemble it.
We have an episode set on a submarine, which is episode 9, which is actually season 5. Jess is very important in that one because she is trying to communicate with the sub, which is lost out of range, and she has an Admiral and Lester on her back for the whole episode, trying to find contact and tell our team what's happening deep below.
HMS Gartside, this is the Ark. Are you receiving me? Over.
What just happened?
HMS Gartside transmitted their last position. Then the comms link went down when I tried to acknowledge. They're not responding to the radio transmission. I'll try a data uplink.
Take her away, gentlemen. Forward 1/3. Aye, Captain.
Sir.
Give me 10 degrees, mate. Aye, Captain.
Another specific challenge of working on Primeval is the fact that you have actors performing to each other and trying to be convincing, but at the same time having to react and interact with something that is obviously not there when you're actually shooting.
Now what is that?
Some kind of theropod.
That presents its own set of challenges. It's very difficult for the actors. Some actors find it much easier than others. Obviously, if they're used to it and they've been shooting it for years, then that's a whole different thing. But when you have new cast members coming in and they've maybe never done CG before, they've never had to deal with something actually not being there but pretending it is, it can be a pretty hard thing for them to have to adapt to.
It was Ciarán's first day and my first day. He was like, "Mate, what are you doing? What's your reaction to that?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, well, I'm just going to do, that." We were all different eye lines. It was all very funny. It's kind of, swings and roundabouts. Sometimes a bit hit and miss whether or not you all look at the same bit. But, if you invest in your reaction to seeing this thing and you just kind of put your faith in the CGI team, who've never let us down before.
This is one of our super bugs, and it's just dimensions of the creature. This is really useful just so when we get to a location we can make sure there's enough room for the creature to move. We know how high it is, so we can give appropriate eye lines, know where its eyes should be. This is really useful for the actors to see as well, just so they can visualise how high they might be, or their size compared to the creature's size.
This is another shot where the trees all line up the same, and we've brought in our really basic model, as you can tell, with Connor, And it's just allowed us to stick him behind a tree so that we frame off the edge so that we don't have any main rotoscope issues with his hair overlapping the creature. And then we plan the shots. We come off of Connor, we move across, we find Abby's bag, we pull focus, and here's a Dracorex comes in, but in the real shot it'll end up being the raptor. And then we move back to Connor, and then the next shot we cut back and he's not there anymore.
Essentially, this was built up of a number of elements. So on the day, they would have shot something much more simple. They would have shot this here. And then, now that would have been done with some very preliminary animation. The preliminary animation would have looked like this. So it's really just to give the players on the set an idea of what's going on. So once they've got that, they go out and shoot it, and they shoot this here, and slowly that will get revised up with animation. So for example here, we can see that they've got something to replace him, which is kind of there, and we'll kind of tweak the animations, we'll tweak his arms, will tweak how he's moving, his characterization, which is really important. Make sure that he's believable.
However the set's been lit, that's how the creature has to be lit, and we need to figure out one way of collecting that data. This is really useful. You've seen these before. The way the light hits the ball is the way the creature's going to be lit in shot. That shows you how something's shaded.
You sort of throw yourself into it and you go, right, there's a guy with a tennis ball on a stick, but it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. But every 5 minutes you will come out of that and go, it's a guy with a ball on a stick. But it's fun. It's really fun. You just need to go with it. And I think it's like anything, once you get the hang of it, it's grand.
So directing in that sort of situation is all about just making them understand the process and making them understand where something actually is in relation to them. The most difficult thing when you're shooting with something that isn't there, which is going to be stitched in later, is eye line. And making, if you don't know where you're looking, or you don't know where a creature's face is and you're supposed to be looking into its face, your eye line could be, you could be shooting your eyes away into the distance, and you just don't believe it. You don't believe a face if it's looking at nothing, unless it's focusing on foreground.
It is literally just about going back to your imagination, which is your basic tool as an actor. It is like you're a kid running around your garden, pretending that Ryan Giggs is there as well when you put the football, or pretending that there's a lion chasing you around the back of the house.
And so trying to give an actor a sense of where the creature is, the size of it, its manner and the way it behaves is vital in kind of selling that. And I mean, there are various tools for doing that. I mean, I do it obviously vocally on set, but we have things called pre-visualizations of CG.
Whoever's directing will make sure that they have access to all the previs, so that just to remind themselves of how they're playing it out and how they've planned the shots.
Usually there's a piece of concept art at least, to let the actors have some kind of a clue of what they're going to be up against. This is episode 8.
We've got one shot for scene 55B, one shot for 64, one shot for 64B. That's the sort of paperwork I'll take on to set with me. We have made a note of what lenses we were pre-vising at.
They'd show you kind of images of what the creature's going to look like, height, where you're looking, how big they are, how fast they can move. So they really kind of put it in perspective for you.
In the last episode of season 5, the Ark is invaded by the most gruesome, evil creature of them all, the future predator.
So you're getting your T-Rex.
They're rather exciting.
The world is going to end.
The truth comes out and we go and save the world.